Let me put this in context. If you look at this chart, it's a chart of the average life expectancy at birth over the past 1,000 years. And what I'm often struck by is the fact that on the first day of the 20th century, the average life expectation was only 47. By the end of the century, it had vaulted up to 78. And that's a bigger breakthrough in that one century than in the previous 900 years combined. And the point of it is actually simple, but perhaps profound. And that is that throughout all history, most people didn't age, they died. So in the 1850s, couples like you, or people like you, didn't say, gee, honey, what would you like to do after retirement? Because you'd be dead. Our medical system didn't need to be expert at things like hypercholesterolemia, osteoarthritis, adult onset diabetes, because most people died young of acute infectious diseases before they got old enough to have their bodies wear out. And most people didn't think about, what could I be after 50? What could I do when I'm 70? What will be my shining accomplishment when I'm 100? To put this in even more dramatic perspective, I'm going to click this little device in my hand and show you the average life expectancy at birth, not over the past 1,000 years, but over the past 100,000 years. Medical anthropologists now tell us that throughout 99% of human history, the average life expectancy worldwide was less than 18. And so this has never happened before. There's a lot of books and a lot of discussions about how to live healthy, how to stay young. But what about the purpose of those extra years of life? I'll give you one personal story on this. It's one of my favorite examples. So I give a lot of talks, and I get to meet a lot of interesting people. And I usually pace around before I speak. And so a few years ago, I was giving a speech in Los Angeles, and there were about 1,000 people in the auditorium. And a man comes up to me outside in the hall, and he said, "Are you Ken Dychtwald?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." He says, "Well, I am here for your speech, but I'm a fitness instructor, and I have one of my students here whom I'd like for you to meet." So I said, "Well, you know, we don't have much time." And he said, "Well, it'll just take a few minutes." So I said, "Fine." So I come in the room, and I'll never forget it. He walks me down the aisle, and he introduces me to a guy, and I'm a pretty good judge of age, looks to me about 75. He's about 6'2", he's kind of wiry, had 2 hearing aids, kind of a good strong grip. And I said, "It's great to meet you." He says, "I'm looking forward to your talk." And I said, "So I hear you've been working out." You know, I'm thinking 75, 80-year-old guy, you know, he's trying to keep himself fit. And he says, "Yeah, I love going to the gym." So I said to him, "How many days a week do you work out?" 4, he says. I said, "Fantastic." I said, "Why at this age?" He said, "Well, I felt that I was losing my steam, and I wanted to have it all going on in the new century." I said, "Great." I said, "So how old were you when you started working out?" And he said, 100. It's a true story. And I said, "So you're 102, you're just getting into the fitness thing." And to make everything even more interesting, we became friends. But his fitness trainer that year entered him into the Senior Olympics, in which he competed in a variety of events in his age category. And what I loved was every event in which he participated, he set a new world's record. So he threw the shot put, you know, whatever, 2 feet. It really doesn't matter. It's a new world's record. You know, he ran the 50-yard dash, whatever, 20 minutes. It really doesn't matter at all, but it was a new world's record. And as I got to know Ben, what I kept feeling was that I was meeting a man from the future. That so often we think what the new is what young people will do. Now, young people are fantastic. But in many ways, I think the new is the 60-year-old poet, the 70-year-old newlywed, the 90-year-old activist, the 100-year-old astronaut. And in all of human history, that story of what becomes of us in that stage of our lives has yet to really be told and fleshed out. Truth of it is that you could live to 90 or 100 or more. Who will you become? Who will you become? I have to come to the conclusion, I'm sure many of you have as well, that number one, front and center, our relationships. And it struck me most dramatically back in 1991 when the Berkeley-Oakland fires happened. As most of you know, it's a very highly educated region of the East Bay. And so you have world-traveled people with interesting homes and rugs from faraway places and maybe artistry or craft work that they gathered up on their journeys and in all sorts of interesting ways. And then there was this experiment. People were told there's a fire coming and you have several hours to leave. And take whatever you can, put it in your car, and be gone. And so it was very interesting what people put in their cars. Most people took a particularly special piece of jewelry, a legacy, an heirloom from a mom or a dad. But what everybody filled their car up with were pictures. And all of a sudden it became obvious that the most valuable things that we have are the experiences we have, and particularly the experiences we have with people we care about and who care about us. And yet so many of us, while we're busy raising our kids and trying to rise up the corporate ladder and achieve society's notion of success, we just don't have enough time for those relationships. I had a particularly frenetic call a number of months back with one of my lawyers, and I called him up on the phone and he was really uptight. And I said, "John, is this a good time to talk?" And he said, "The last good time to talk was in college." So we did another study recently in 20 countries. We interviewed 20,000 people and 6,000 employers. And we asked, all over the world, what are the keys to happiness in life's second half? Is it fame? Is it power? Is it enormous wealth? Here's what people said. Staying young at heart, not having to worry about money, keeping fit, but number one, worldwide, loving family and friends. And yet the question is, if that's so real, do we take the time, if your mom and dad are still alive, to tell them you love them? Do we hold our kids long enough? Do we take relationships and make them more important than all the other stuff that occupies so much of our time? Perhaps with a longer life and being able to step out of or grow up through some of the pressures and turmoil and even responsibilities of being a young person and then being an active parent, or that you get a chance to take a deep breath and say, be nice to spend some time with the people I really care about.